Just let me hear some of that rock and roll music, any old way you choose it.
Hello, this is Katie with Vintage and Vinyl, and I'll be spinning some rockin' 50s records every week here on my channel, as well as sharing some cool Coca-Cola collectibles and other neat vintage finds. Stay tuned! Hey guys, this is Katie with Vintage and Vinyl, back with another great video for you today. In this video, we are talking uranium glass, and I have a lot of great pieces from my own collection to share with you. And my collection has grown exponentially since my first video, so I thought it would be fun to share all the pieces in my collection and give you a little history of uranium glass, since it has become wildly popular among our vintage circle. Now, if you are not following Christy Garza on YouTube, you really should. Her channel is Tippy Winks Vintage, and she is a big lover of the uranium glass like I am, and she just posted a video showcasing some of the items she got from various live sales, and boy has she got some fabulous uranium pieces. So I will link her channel down below. Highly recommend you check that out as well if you love uranium. Now, before we get into the glowing goodness, I thought I would talk a little bit about the YouTube calendar and events happening here on YouTube. Every day there is so many things happening, and it is very hard to keep track, but a big thanks to Angela Marksberry on Instagram. She has been working hard to create the calendar for us all, and every week she posts it on her Instagram page, so I will link that down below. And of course, many other YouTubers in the community share that on their Instagram pages as well, so you will find it circulating Instagram. Now, Misty over at Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter also has a really cool app that you can join. It's called Discord, and her friend's son worked really hard on this. We all know and love Graham from Misty's live sales, and he's the one that had this great idea to create a Discord account. And you can go on to Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter, find the Discord page, and post your weekly vintage and antique finds and chat with other people in the community. And you can also post all of your events as a content creator on that app, on that page, specifically for our little vintage community. And that's a great way to keep track of what's going on. So definitely download the app for Discord. It's free. Sign up and join Misty's page. And also look for Angela Marksberry on Instagram. Okay, so support everybody you can this week, and of course, be kind. But now let's get into the glowing goodness. Now, uranium glass has a very interesting history. It started in 1830 as a way to color glass. They discovered if they mixed uranium with a couple of other chemicals, they would get a really beautiful green or yellow color, hence uranium and Vaseline glass. Now, people back then actually would put uranium glass on their windowsill at night, and it became a natural nightlight for a lot of people. They didn't have to use oil lamps or candles, which were costly at the time, so it was a great free nightlight. And if you do this experiment at home, it does work. So put a piece of uranium glass by your window and it will glow. Now, it won't glow as much as if you had a black light on it, but it does glow, and it's a very cool experiment. Now, of course, during the war, uranium was banned, so nobody could produce uranium. And I've heard that it was actually physically removed from people's houses. So they actually would go in and take it out of people's houses. And of course, in 1950, when the ban was lifted, it started being produced again and became wildly popular. So you see a lot of uranium during that time. Now, uranium is still being produced today, and you will find uranium pieces, so be on the lookout for those reproductions and fakes, because they are out there. And there's a lot of great vintage uranium glass, though, that you can collect yourself from a variety of different glass companies, which I'm going to showcase now. Now, the first piece of uranium glass I want to show is the first piece I ever got, and this is the piece that really got me collecting uranium glass because I just absolutely fell in love with it. This piece is a cake plate that was made by the Jeanette Glass Company in the sunflower pattern. And this belonged to my great-grandmother. My grandmother remembers it being on her kitchen counter, so they used this a lot for cake and pie. And this was actually given away during the Great Depression in flour sacks. So yes, they would stuff this heavy piece of glass down in the big flour sacks and give it away for free to people who bought the flower. But this is the Sunflower Pattern by Jeanette, and of course this is a very common pattern, but it's a beautiful plate. They made it in pink as well, and it has the 3 toes on the bottom, and of course it glows green. And this is just such a neat piece of glass, and of course it has a really special history, so I love it. Now Jeanette actually was started as Jeanette Bottle Works in Jeanette, Pennsylvania in the 1880s. Now in 1898 they became Jeanette Glass Company, and then in 1920 they were sold. Now I don't know who they were sold to. I cannot find any information online. So if you know that history about Jeanette Glass, I'd love to know, so please post it down below. And then of course in 1983 Jeanette unfortunately closed. But Jeanette is a good company to look out for because there are a lot of popular glass patterns that were made by Jeanette that are collectible in their own right today. And I love the Jeanette Sunflower Pattern. It's a great piece of glowy glass. Now the next glass company I want to talk about and show some pieces that are uranium is Hazel Atlas. Now I am a huge Hazel Atlas fan. I love Hazel Atlas crisscross. I am on the hunt for that all the time. It is a fabulous pattern. And Hazel Atlas was founded in 1885 in Wheeling, West Virginia. And if you're a big glass gal like I am, or a glass nerd, you know that Wheeling, West Virginia was a big area for a lot of glass companies of the time. West Virginia in general had tons of glass companies in it that were really big. Now they were originally the Hazel Glass Company, and then in 1902 they were renamed Hazel Atlas. Now Hazel Atlas pieces sometimes are marked, and when you see the H and the A, you will know that is Hazel Atlas. And so this is a beautiful optic glass piece that I want to share with you. Now it is in the rib optic design. You can see the optic pattern going around there. Now this is very small. It's not a berry bowl. I really think that it is some sort of a jello mold, and it's got an indentation on the inside where the rib optic pattern is going around. So my guess is you would use this as some sort of a mold, specifically maybe jello, but you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. And it is marked Hazel Atlas. You can see the H and the A. The A always nests inside of the H. That is a signature Hazel Atlas mark, and it is just really neat. And of course it glows bright green. Now I don't have the lights off because if I do that you guys won't be able to see the patterns up close on the glass, but I think that this still glows very well even under the light because it has a lot of uranium in it. Now there is something called the Geiger Counter, and the Geiger Counter is used to measure how much uranium is in something. It is a machine, and people who are really into uranium can test the pieces, and you can learn how much uranium is in each piece. So uranium measures on a different scale, and that is something that some people really like to test that are super into uranium, but that is why some uranium glows more than other pieces. You can see the Jeanette cake plate didn't glow as much as this piece of uranium here. Now I do get this question a lot on my Instagram and my YouTube page. Is uranium glass safe, and would you eat off of it? For example, I mentioned that this might be a jello mold, and I wouldn't put jello in it today. I personally would not eat off uranium. I don't think it's particularly safe to drink out of uranium or eat off of it. Of course, there is a variety of opinions in the vintage community, and you guys can do what you feel is safe. Now, as far as uranium goes, keeping it in your house is totally safe. You actually get more radiation from your smoke detector in your house than you do uranium, and unless you had over like 3,000 or 4,000 pieces, I really don't think that it's a big deal, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. Uranium is totally fine. I personally just don't eat off of it, so I would not be using this as a jello mold, but it is beautiful, and you can store whatever you want in it. You know, you could put marbles in here, buttons, you know, you can do all kinds of things with these uranium pieces, and they really look great in a display. Now the next piece of Hazel Atlas glass I'm going to share with you is a berry bowl, and it does sort of have an optic design. It's got that paneled block design going around on the outside, and it is marked Hazel Atlas. You can see the H and the A. Now I don't know if this has an official pattern name or not, other than that it is sort of a block optic design. It is a beautiful piece of pressed glass, and of course it does glow bright green. And I wish you guys could see this in person because it is just really spectacular. The camera does not do this uranium glass justice at all. Now that is all for Hazel Atlas. I will be looking for more pieces in the future. But I do want to talk a little bit now about hawking and anchor hawking. Now most of you guys out there are probably saying, wait, isn't that the same company? Aren't they the same? And technically yes, but they're really not. And it is important to know the difference between hawking and anchor hawking, because hawking is older than anchor hawking, and it's important to know that when you are dating glass, and it is important to make sure that you are listing glass correctly online, because I see a lot of people marking things as anchor hawking when it's really hawking and it is significantly older. So that's why that does matter. And of course with glass, so many glass companies were bought by other glass companies, molds were sold. All of that gets very confusing, and you do have to do a lot of sleuthing when it comes to identifying glass, because so many different pieces were sold and made and so forth and so on by different companies. But hawking and anchor hawking technically are different, and when you look in glass books, you will see it listed differently and not the same. So I'm going to be showing you pieces from hawking today, not anchor hawking. Now, hawking was founded in 1905 as the Hawking Glass Company in Lancaster, Ohio. Now, they were named Hawking after the nearby river that was named Hawking. And of course, in 1937, they merged with the Anchor Cap Corporation and became what we all know and love as Anchor Hawking. And of course, Anchor Hawking is still around today. You can get kitchenware at your local Target made by Anchor Hawking. Now the piece I'm going to show you is made by Hawking, and this is a really neat piece. My mom and I discovered it upstairs in my mom's house, and it was in a box. We didn't even know we had it, and it was glowing without a black light. This is what I'm telling you. If you put it by a window, some of the stuff that has a lot of uranium will just kind of glow on its own. And this was sticking out, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool, because this is Hawking in the ribbed optic pattern, and it is a fridge dish, or a fridgie as my Pyrex friends like to call it, and it is a heavy piece of glass. This is probably 2 or 3 pounds, very thick, very sturdy, but this belonged to my great-grandmother, and it is a beautiful piece of uranium glass, and this thing glows. Let me tell you guys, this is spectacular in person. And of course you can see the ribbed optic design there, and it has a lid and a very, very thick base, and you can see the bubbles in it in the bottom, if that will show up on camera. Not marked. I don't know that all of Hawking pieces were marked. Now currently Anchor Hawking is marked with the little anchor, but not every piece was always marked. So just be on the lookout when you are looking for glass, that just because it's not marked doesn't mean that it's not Anchor Hawking or Hawking. But this is Hawking, and it's a really, really lovely refrigerator dish. Now this next piece of Hawking glass was one I was very excited to find, because I had been on the hunt for this, and it is a relatively common pattern. It's just that I could never find any at a good price. I don't know if it's becoming more and more rare. I hate to use the word rare because I think it does get overused too much, but I was really glad to find this. So recently I took a trip to my local antique store. There was nobody inside, so I could social distance. I was totally safe, and I found this for $2, which I think is a steal. And I got a bunch of them, and of course if you won my mystery box you got one of them as well. But this is not Anchor Hawking. See, I had to catch myself. It's very easy to get all of these glass companies confused. But this is Hawking, and it's the cameo pattern, and I love this. This is a teacup in uranium, and you can see the cameo pattern there. Now what makes it cameo is, of course, you see the cameo, and then you see a little girl dancing inside. A lady dancing inside the cameo, and it has the ribbed optic design with this beautiful handle. It is a piece of pressed glass. You can see the mold seam prominently in the middle there, but it's just absolutely gorgeous, and a lovely little teacup. And of course it is uranium, and boy, look at that thing glow. Is that not just spectacular?
But I love these pieces of Hawking glass, and it is fun to finally own the Cameo pattern. So be on the lookout for Cameo. It's a really neat piece of pressed glass. Now, the next company I want to talk about is Federal Glass Company, and I was ecstatic when I found these because I love the Federal Glass patterns. They have a lot of great patterns, and they, of course, have Lovebird, Georgian, and they have Parrot. Now, a lot of people get those two patterns confused, and rightfully so, because if you look them up online, they both have flowers, they both have bamboo, and they both have parrots or birds on the design, but they're actually slightly different. So you can really get a magnifying glass out and look up close when you find that Federal pattern to determine whether it's actually Georgian Lovebird or it's Parrot. Now, Georgian is the official name, and Lovebird is what was kind of given to collectors. We kind of gave that pattern the Lovebird name. So you can look out for Georgian Lovebird as one and the same. But I found a couple of pieces recently. Some I got from Kori, the Thrifted artist, and I just think that they're really beautiful. Now, the Federal Glass Company was founded in 1900 in Columbus, Ohio, and then in 1958 they became part of the Federal Paper Board Company, and then in 1970, unfortunately, they did close, and Indiana got all of their molds and they bought their plants. Now, what I do know about Federal Glass and the buying of the molds is Indiana Glass did remake a lot of Federal's patterns, but they did not make them the same color. So the remakes of them were in in pink and blue and clear. And if you find them in uranium, that is original to Federal. It is not the remake by Indiana Glass. So that is just something important to know. And that's why knowing the history of these glass companies really can be helpful, because when you know something got sold and the molds got sold, you really have to then figure out what was original and what wasn't, because it does matter to glass collectors. A lot of people really want the true originals. Okay, so enough of my rambling about Federal Glass. Let's get into actually looking at some pieces, and this is the Lovebird pattern. It is just beautiful. It features the lovebirds there with the beautiful flower design going across the top. This is a double-handled open sugar. I don't have the creamer, but I am okay. I like kind of random glass pieces. I like to collect one pattern here and one pattern there. I just like a mixture of pieces. It's kind of eclectic and it's fun, and that way you can get a variety of patterns, and it's a great way to help you learn the patterns as well. And now this is not marked Federal. Federal does have the F and the shield as a mark, but this is Federal, and it is the Lovebird Georgian pattern, and it is just beautiful. And of course I have to show you that it does glow, and this really glows. Again, you guys just cannot see this on camera as it is in person because it is just spectacular. But I love this. Now I have several other pieces in the Lovebird Georgian pattern as well. And lately I've really gotten into collecting Sherberts. Now I don't know why. I guess they're so small. They're easy to display in a small apartment like mine, but I have several Sherberts. And I have 4 of these, and I just think they're fabulous. I actually put them in my windowsill so at night that they glow. But this is the Lovebird pattern as well. Now you can see it's pressed glass. There's a big old mold seam right down the side, and better glass companies would have polished that down so it's not as prominent. But this is just gorgeous, and it is the Federal Georgian Lovebird pattern, and you can see the birds right there with the bamboo on the inside and that flower band around the rim of the glass. Just really lovely. And for the glow, oh my word, I will never get over this glass. I will be always a kid in a candy shop with my flashlight everywhere I go because this stuff is just so much fun. Now I also have a berry bowl and in the same pattern, and for some reason this glows more than the other 2 pieces I just showed, and I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, obviously different batches of glass probably got a little bit more uranium than other pieces, but it's just a really neat piece of glass to have, because again, I love that Lovebird pattern, and it's a berry bowl, nice and small, and of course for the glow, just fabulous. Now it does have a unique pattern on the bottom, and I don't know why the Sherbert doesn't have it, or the creamer, I mean the open sugar, but it's got sort of a, looks like a snowflake on the bottom there, if that's showing up. But it's just really lovely piece of pressed glass, and I love the Lovebird pattern. It's just great. Now I want to show this piece of Federal glass as well. Now this is a pretty common pattern. This is the Federal, it's just a rib optic design, twisted optic, whatever you'd like to call it, and it is a Sherbert. Of course it's molded. You can see that mold seam right there, but it is marked Federal, so there are some pieces that are marked and some pieces that aren't, and this is one of them that is marked. It has the F in the shield, and I hope that shows up there so you guys can see that mark, because that is a big thing to look out for Federal glass, is that mark. And of course it does glow bright green, which is fabulous. Now I do want to point out that this rib design, rib optic design, was made by several companies. So this is Federal, but Hawking, or Anchor Hawking, also makes one similar to this, but they actually have a larger pedestal base, and it has the design continued onto the foot of the piece of glass. So there are slight variances depending on what company it is that you are looking for. Man, I need to find my words and get it together. But I hope you guys understand what I was trying to say there. So that is Federal glass. Now I have two pieces of glass that I don't know anything about, but I do know that this one piece is called Bonot. That's the pattern, from the 1920s, but there is no maker. Nobody knows who made this. It's listed in several glass books as unknown, and I did ask Tim and over the years, and he told me the same thing. It's the Bonot pattern, unknown maker, but it is really beautiful. It has a gorgeous design with wonderful rim on the outside, and again that kind of snowflake pattern. And I do know that some glass companies would release certain things at Christmas time, so this might have been a special Christmas design. I'm not entirely sure. You could also get glass by collecting the stamps and then trading it in if you got enough stamps in your book for different pieces of glass. So this might have been something that was given away free as well. But it does glow, and it is just absolutely stunning, and a wonderful little piece of glass to look out for if you're out hunting. This is the Bonot pattern. Now the next piece of glass, I'm not exactly sure who makes it. It is a Sherbert. Now I bought this from Joni at Vintagerous. I just thought it was so beautiful, and I haven't been able to find anything on it, and she might have mentioned what it was, but I'm not sure. It's not cabbage rose, because at first glance that's what I thought it was, but it's not cabbage rose, but it is just beautiful. It has a wonderful press pattern with these flowers going around the outside. So if you guys know anything about this pattern, please let me know. And it does have a gorgeous design on the base there, the foot of the glass. I don't often see a lot of glass, or pressed glass anyway, that has a design also continuing onto the bottom, which I just think is unique and really beautiful. And of course it does glow bright green, so that is just so cool. I mean, you gotta love the black light. And for all of you guys that are new to uranium glass, you can get a black light on your own on Amazon for a couple of bucks. Mine was $4, I think, and it is a really great tool to have when you are out there in the wild looking at glass. Now I want to talk next about my favorite glass company in the entire world, and that is Fostoria. I'm a huge Fostoria collector. Fostoria was one of the better glass companies that made really good quality glass. They were founded in 1887 in Fostoria, Ohio, and then they moved to Moundsville, West Virginia in 1891. And in 1983, unfortunately, the Lancaster Colony Company did buy them, got their molds and they went out of business. But this piece of uranium glass is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I love the Versailles pattern, and this is the Versailles pattern. This is a bowl. It could be a berry bowl or just a open candy dish or whatever you want it to be. Now, what's unique about it is it has the bow-shaped handles, and there are a lot of pieces that are Versailles, but you don't often see them with the bow handles. And I just think that this is a really gorgeous piece of etched glass. Just absolutely stunning, and you can see that pattern there. And I do want to mention that the Versailles pattern gets often confused with the Trojan pattern because this design right here is very similar, but it is not the same. So you really have to look up close and distinguish the two to know which pattern you have. Of course, this does glow, and it is fabulous. Now, this does not glow as bright as some of the other pieces I have, but it does glow, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. Love, love, love this piece. Now, this next piece is something that I would probably use if I had some doilies or wax paper down, but I got this from Kelly over at Mossstone Story Vintage, and this is just the most beautiful thing in the world. This is a Tidbit Tray. It is Fostoria, and this has the fleur-de-lis. Now, I don't know if this has a specific pattern name. I believe in my book it's just called fleur-de-lis, but I could be wrong, and if someone knows and wants to correct me, they can in the comments. It does have the optic design on the base of this beautiful piece of glass, and it is a Tidbit Tray. And what's nice is it has this sturdy handle, so you could walk around at a party and put all your little sandwiches and serve it to people, or hors d'oeuvres, whatever you want. And it is just a great Fostoria piece, and definitely something to be on the lookout for, because man, this glows. And it is just absolutely beautiful. And I will be using it at my next vintage tea party when all of this junk ends. So yay for Fostoria. Beautiful glass and a great company to look out for. Now, the last company that I want to talk about today and share glass from is the Indiana Glass Company. They're a very popular company, and they were started in 1897 as the Beatty Brandy Company in Dunkirk, Indiana. Now, in 1899, they were purchased by the National Glass Company during the Bankers' Panic. And then, of course, in 1907, the Indiana Glass Company was bought by the Indiana Glass Company. So they became the Indiana Glass Company in 1907, and they became a powerhouse company. And of course, everybody who knows vintage knows Indiana Glass. So these pieces from Indiana Glass are just gorgeous. Now, this was from Kori, the Thrifted artist. She has a great YouTube channel here. And this is the Indiana Glass Horseshoe pattern. Now, I have the creamer and the sugar, and this is just absolutely fabulous. I love the horseshoe pattern, and you can see it's the horseshoe pattern because it actually has little horseshoes going around in the press design. I hope that's showing up on camera. It might be a little hard to see, but there's the horseshoe, and then it has these flowers on the inside. Just a really lovely piece of glass, and I love the way the handle is shaped. Very Art Deco in my opinion. And then you have this triangular square sort of bottom, which you don't often see on a lot of glass pieces. Usually that they're round, the foot on the bottom, the pedestal base. So it's just really gorgeous, and of course it glows green. Just a beautiful piece of glass. And I have, this is the creamer, and I also have the sugar to go with it, the open sugar. It does not have a lid. You can see there's no ridge for the lid to sit down in. So it is indeed an open sugar, and it has the double handle. Just a really, really lovely pattern. Definitely one to look out for because it is quite collectible. And I love the horseshoe pattern by Indiana Glass. Of course, it is pressed. You can see the mold seam right on the side, but just a really, really gorgeous Indiana pattern. So I'm sorry guys, the camera cut out there. I was recording and it just decided to shut off for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I was talking too long and it got bored of me. But I have this beautiful Indiana tea room pattern, which is one of my all-time favorite depression glass patterns. and it is just stunning. So look at the Art Deco design on these salt and peppers. Are they not just absolutely fabulous? Now, if you find these, they are a little bit harder to find, specifically in good condition. So I recommend you picking these up anytime you see them, because online they go for quite a lot of money. I have seen the salt and peppers sell for, oh man, over $68. And if you get the ones that have the caddy with them, the little handle and the caddy, those can go well over $100. So they are a really unique piece to pick up. I don't want to say that they're rare, because I think that word gets way too overused, but definitely be on the lookout for them, as well as Indiana's Cracked Ice, because Vintage Vinny just found that recently, and he mentioned that it is going for quite a bit online. So he's going to keep his creamer and sugar, but if he ever decides to sell, I'll be the first person in line wanting to buy that, along with probably many other people, because it is really fabulous. But this is the Indiana Celery Bowl, and yes, it was used to hold celery, and it is just absolutely beautiful with that gorgeous design. Just absolutely a stunner of a piece. I love anything Art Deco, and this just is so Art Deco and absolutely gorgeous, and uranium to boot. So you can't go wrong with these pieces. So I highly recommend getting a blacklight flashlight if you don't have one. And I hope you find some cool uranium pieces in the future. When you're out hunting, uranium glass is the funnest thing to collect, because you can have fun with your blacklight, testing to see if it glows. And of course, there's all kinds of uranium glass out there, and I definitely recommend looking for it now that you know a little bit more about it. So guys, that is all that I have for you all today. I hope to see you in one of the live chats soon, and I hope you will stay in, stay safe, and binge YouTube.
That's why I go for that rock and roll music. Any old